Well, hello, another episode of the End of the World podcast. I'm your host, Glenn. I wanted to talk to you about some of the videos that's coming out of Shanghai and what it means, what I don't think it does mean. All through the weekend, and it's now Monday afternoon here, we were getting videos from different sections of Shanghai mostly showing a very, very aggressive campaign. Is that a good word? Campaign by the Chinese government, by the Shanghai government, to eradicate something. And we saw the pictures of the cleaning officers, and it's unclear as to whether those are police or a separate whatever. They're in strange white hazmat uniforms. Whatever they're fighting is so different that they can't even allow these people to wear their street clothes. Think how different that is from what we've seen in the past with regular COVID, which scared the pants out of me. I didn't need to be scared any more than the previous ones did. But whatever China knows is coming and not talking about has everybody who's out in public, even not near other people, or they're near each other, but they're not near the quarantined folks, but they're still wearing hazmat uniforms. Now, here's something that you should find very strange. If you've seen the videos, and if not, you can go on YouTube and see them now, and you'll see that there's some people who don't look particularly stressed out with sprayers spraying lime spray onto maybe some trees, but mostly onto the sidewalks and the streets. They're going to kill this germ. They're going to succeed in China's campaign of COVID-0. Period. The question here is, COVID isn't spread by the feet, and this COVID, now I don't know about the other COVIDs, it was kind of the other way around or iffy, but this COVID, this Omicron BA2, is not spread by the hands. It's not that it couldn't be, but it's that it is so contagious that if you're anywhere near close enough that you could touch somebody's hands and thereby catch it, you've caught it. They've breathed on you and you've been exposed to it. But the numbers are still showing this entire campaign to be hogwash. Now, over the weekend, there was 194 people in Shanghai, China, who died from all causes, as said the hospitals. Well, that's not a lot of people for 25 million. If you've got a city for 25 million and less than 200 of them died with everything going around, that's not a bad, that's kind of a normal weekend. So the thing that is making this so odd is that China seems to take it as if the more people that die, the more they have to tighten up the restrictions. Any 2-year-old would tell them it's the opposite. You're seeing that the restrictions are not working. You cannot quarantine out this disease, which is 10 to 25 times more contagious than the Omicron BA1. So the current one is the Omicron BA2, and it is 10 to 25 times more contagious than Omicron BA1, which we were told was the most contagious thing you could imagine. So this one's unimaginably contagious, so what are we going to do? Well, so the Chinese are preparing for something that is not Omicron BA2, is my belief. What is it? I still don't know. So if any of you have any ideas, leave them down below if you know what it is. Now, remember the Chinese pods are very against every website, every podcast, anything that says anything that could be in any way discouraging of the Chinese government. So they've already gotten me warned by YouTube by claiming that my podcast is anti-Chinese people, which of course it's not, of course. No, I'm just trying to find out, why are they trying to prevent the most communicable disease possible? They're trying to prevent it from going around by locking people in huge numbers in their offices, warehouses, etc. I did say I would check on Pingwang, find out that's one of the cities there where the people are being relocated to another town about 70 kilometers away. That's a long ways. It's about 50 miles. And they're being taken to another city, and everyone in the quarantined house must go. Now, that means if there's a wife and her child are in the quarantined house, they have to go. They have no choice. Well, what about the husband? And maybe he was out with one of the children, so they're at a different house. Well, they wouldn't go. So families are being ripped apart by the Chinese government. I also saw the exact inverse, and this was hard to believe. There's I would say a 35 to 45 second piece of tape coming from China, and it's just a full-on cell phone of I'm not going to call it a selfie, but a cell phone of a beautiful woman just crying her eyes out and saying, they're taking my husband and my child and locking them into our house with a lock on the door, but they're sending me to one of these villages for people who are not sick. How is my husband going to take care of our infant baby? You have to think about that's a biological issue. And she says they're just basically setting up the babies to die, and she is just crying as hard as can be. And I'm going by the translation. She's speaking in Chinese, but I'm going by the translation below it, and I had no answer for her. I couldn't figure out what you would do in that place. Remember, the people that are in offices were in their office when the notice came down that we are now locked up. I think it was an hour and 45 minutes advance notice. We're in the 5th week, and those people were in the office and are now locked up in their office with no change of clothes, with no shower. What office has a shower? With very little in the way of food. And some of the food, one guy, this was tough to look at. One young man went to the food dispensary, showed his papers, his credentials to get his box of food, and his box was a half a carrot. Oh. Now, if you're like a lot of people, you're thinking, is that coming here? No, it's not. Because although it's caused in part certainly by the ships and the slowdown in the shipping, the reason the ships are not being unloaded is because of the completely crazy campaign that says we are going to reduce COVID down to 0, which is an impossibility. It can't be done. What do you think we send them a couple of 100,000 copies of The Mask of the Red Death, and we show them what happened to Prince Prospero, my email name, at Gmail, when he tried to do exactly that. It didn't work out well. So, anyway, thanks for listening. This is a short one. I don't have any other news than that. I do want to congratulate the brave Ukraine people for, again, tonight, another massive, strike into the heart. They actually struck a Russian chemical plant. Now that takes What does that take? It's hard to explain that. If you're a man and you do that, you have to actually have your pants altered, right in the center where the seam is. You have to have extra room in there, because that's a brave maneuver for a guy who does that. And I saw pictures of the sky on fire. They hit, I believe it's 10,000 barrels of Russian fuel for tanks and just blew it up. It was last night. Ooh, I'm betting. I'll bet anyone $1, which I can't do because they'll call the authorities in on me and say, oh, he's trying to make money. The Russians and the Chinese, Russians especially, worked very hard to get rid of me. The Russians worked 4 years during the Trump campaign and during his presidency. They worked 4 years everywhere just to try to get my voice not to be heard, because I was one of the first ones who equated Trump and Putin. So they finally got me off of that horrible neighbor thing I said, we have to make sure we keep the Russians out of the White House. And they wrote in and said, look at that. He says Russian people can't be in the White House. He hates Russian people. And the stupid computer said, yeah. So they banned me for saying that. Anyway, have a good night. And if you liked what you heard, just give me a thumbs up. Doesn't cost you anything. I won't bother you. You notice I'm the only place on here that doesn't hit you for a donation to my Patreon page, because I don't have a Patreon page, because I don't want or need your money. Thank you for listening.